threw divorce papers at him after I was fed up with his so-called business goals 2 years later. I left my husband in the middle of the night because I was tired of his non-existent big dreams and goals. But now karma has gotten me hard, and he has made it big in life. He has had a huge glow-up, and now he wants to divorce me and ruin my life after I threw divorce papers at him. I don't think it's wrong for me to have wanted to share in this new success of his, but 2 years is a long time for two people to grow apart. Help me here, guys. This is complicated, but I still need help regardless, and I'm sure I'll be able to get some help here. My husband has become very successful, and he's rubbing it all in my face. He even has a girlfriend now, and it doesn't sit right with me that this new woman is the one that's going to be enjoying all of his wealth. Yes, I want him back. Am I wrong for getting tired of supporting my husband's big dreams and leaving him because I didn't want to keep funding his business ideas? I don't think so, but my husband feels otherwise. My name is Brenda, and I'm a 26-year-old businesswoman. I sell female clothes, and I own a store for it. I've been married for 5 years, but we have been separated for 2 years in total. The name of my husband is Gregory, and he's 30 years old. Things were not always bad from the start of our marriage. We were both working at first, and things were going well till he lost his job a few days before our wedding. His company decided to let off some workers, and unfortunately, he was one of them. Of course, he told me about it before we got married, and I told him I didn't mind. Of course, I said that because I thought we had a bright future together. Before he lost his job, he earned a lot of money, and I was so sure that I was getting married to a very rich man. I had no idea that things would end up going bad, and I would regret my decision at the end of the day. After the wedding, it was still all blossom and bliss because we still had some part of the money he saved before he was sacked. Things didn't just go bad straight away. It was more like a gradual process, a very painful gradual process to be precise. At first, when he didn't find a job, I wasn't bothered at all because I honestly believed he would get a job one way or another. But Gregory didn't find a job, if rather he didn't search for a job. I don't know how to explain this, but I'll just say it as it is. I think he got PTSD from getting let off at work, and so he just started to dispose of the thought of working for someone and being under their mercy. I was patient for the first 6 months, but when I realized that he made no plans to get things right, I decided to take matters into my own hands and start asking him the right questions. I found myself asking my own husband why he was still unemployed and didn't look for a job. Each time I brought up the topic, he would explain to me that he was setting up his own business idea and didn't want to be that kind of situation where he was going to get fired for a job all over again. Did I get where he was coming from? Yes, to an extent I could understand why he would want to build up a business from scratch by himself. Was I ready to be patient with him? No, I was not. I was just 21 when I got married. No part of me prepared to be broke in just the first 6 months of getting married to a guy that I believed was loaded enough to take care of me. I couldn't believe that I was already having money talks with my husband in just the first 6 months of our marriage. It wasn't the kind of life I had envisioned for myself, so it was hard to accept the reality he had been trying to enforce on me. At that point, there wasn't really anything lacking in the house, and there was more than enough food that would take us a long time. He wasn't absolutely broke by then either, and we could still afford to go to one of 2 dates, but things weren't as smooth as I initially thought they would be. But I decided to be patient for some time and just see where things would go. Gradually, I began to realize just how much of a mistake I made. I'm in the first year of our marriage. Things were still the same, and he just kept going on meetings with his friends, staring at his computer all day and telling me the big business goals he had. I could not believe that a girl like me was in that situation, and to be honest, I was very angry. I only remembered marrying a man who worked and actually earned, so it was just too abnormal to see him at home while I went to work. He never asked me to bring in money to keep up with expenses. That was never a problem, but I had a problem with the fact that he didn't give me money for shopping or personal upkeep. I couldn't buy new clothes or go out as often as I wanted. He would just let me use my own money to take care of myself. I wasn't even saving money at all. Things were that difficult, and it was just the first year. Gregory would only encourage me with words like he was putting things in place and he had a plan. Those were just the words I heard almost every single day, and I got tired of them. Anyone in my position would get tired of it too. I remember getting married, not getting into problems, so I had to mentally tell myself to be patient. So after the first year of our marriage, I actually thought things were turning around for the better because of how serious Gregory became. He spoke to some of his friends, and they had conversations about taking up plans to start something up. I never really cared to listen long enough to know what they were planning for. I just always wanted to make sure that they were working for the betterment of our life. I still kept my job and made money, but I didn't like spending it on myself. I mean, I'm a businesswoman, but I never imagined funding my own business when I had a husband to do that for me. Eventually, I got tired of waiting all over again and called Gregory on our second marriage anniversary to ask him why things were still going slow. Gregory got very angry and accused me of not being patient enough. That's another red flag that I noticed from him. I just couldn't understand why my own husband was angry because I was asking him about his finances. Gregory always has this alpha male energy, and that's one of the reasons his ego never allowed him to apply for jobs. He wanted to do it on his own. Whenever I asked him why he was turning down so many opportunities, he said he didn't want to get surprised by another company just like his former company had surprised him. Again, he still had money that we used to run the house, but I was still worried that I wasn't learning the life I had envisioned. Instead of talking about vacations, trips, and upgrading our house, we were talking about business goals when we didn't even have a business yet. Apart from that, I was also low-key scared because I knew that at some point, he would end up asking me for money, and I just didn't want that at all. The thought of him asking me for money or help didn't sit well with me, so I got eager for him to get a job. 2 years of marriage with so much trouble at that time was just so suffocating to me. He had goals he spoke about, but I got tired of hearing about goals and just wanted to see the results. You all should just try seeing things from my own perspective. I didn't sign up for that kind of life, so why should I even try living it? My patience was very slim, and it started to show because I stopped hiding it completely. Gregory and I got into an argument almost every single day. It was just the same routine of him coming into the bedroom after locking himself in the study room with some files and his computer, and then I'll start to ask him when the results of his laziness would yield results. He had the same answer of telling me I had no reason to worry because he still had money on him, but I called it nonsense. I didn't want to just survive. I wanted to love life, and I needed a husband that would give me that. Another thing that always hurt me was the fact that he was never really ready to listen to me when I spoke about everything. He'd just watch me and say nothing about it. When I said nothing, he didn't try to apologize for putting me through all the worry and stress. Yes, I always saw him doing things and working at the study, but I needed to see the results. Big instead of seeing the results, he'd just tell me his business goals, and to be honest, I never cared. So I started staying late at my shop. Of course, I got tired of the routine and needed a break. It just always made me angry to come back home and see my husband in the same place I left him. Is that the normal way to leave? To come home and see your husband staring at a computer with a pen in his hand which he uses to write down stuff? Is that work? Just drafting out goals without showing results? I mean, it had been over 2 years by then and I was over it. I was tired of waiting for him. I was upset and I was drained, but physically and mentally. I couldn't even stand the sight of his files and business plans whenever he tried to show them to me. He always tried to carry me along with his progress at home, so the only way to escape was to stay late at my shop and wait for him to sleep off. I didn't cheat on him while we were together. Let me make that clear. I didn't even cheat while I stayed late at the shop. I had that much respect for him in our marriage, but it was not enough for the both of us. I actually filed for divorce and got the papers ready because I thought it would make him wake up. Fast forward to one day when he refused to sleep before I came, and then he asked me why I came home late. I tried lying at first, but he was angry and persistent, so I just told him that I was tired of him being jobless. Guys, that day it was almost like I unleashed a beast in Gregory. He got so angry that he almost broke the TV. His veins were on his face, it was that bad. I didn't get why he was the one getting worked up when I should have been the one going through the stress. But at the end of the day, I had no choice than to tell him he was overreacting. Yeah. He got angry and accused me of not supporting him when he needed me the most. Yes, he really said that. I mean, why should I support someone that was wasting my time? I was young in my early 20s and had just gotten into marriage. I didn't plan to be anyone's support system. Even if I wanted to be a support system, I need at least see the effort on your end, but from my point of view, Gregory just wanted to waste my time. So that night, he gave me an ultimatum and told me that if I wanted to keep staying out late, then I was looking for trouble in our marriage. I took the papers out of my drawer and threw it at him. He sauced on the floor and barged out of the room without any reaction. He didn't sleep in the bedroom that night, and he didn't sleep in the house. That was what gave me enough time to make my decision. I came to the conclusion that I wanted to leave the narrative for maybe 2 months just to see if he would cave in and go look for a job. I packed my things and left the house before dawn the next day. Barely 3 hours after I left, I got a lot of mixed calls from Gregory. I didn't take his calls, so he sent text messages. I'm those messages. He asked where I went and also asked why I wasn't taking his calls. He told me to cool off and come to the house so we could speak, and also because he had cooled off and was ready to speak to me. I never replied to any of those messages because what I was really waiting for were the results, and as long as he was still in the same place I left him, I wanted to have nothing to do with him. At first, I left him because I thought leaving would change his mind, but I later realized that wasn't the case. After 2 months, I realized that there was no progress, so I decided not to go back. He stopped texting me after the first month, so I didn't need to explain anything. My shop is nowhere close to our house, so I didn't come in contact with him. The apartment I moved into was 1 hour away from Gregory's place, so we had no contact. He never showed up at my shop, and I never cared to look for him. After 6 months of separation, I got into a relationship with a guy one of my friends introduced to me. Divorce never crossed my mind because I knew it was a long process that I just wasn't interested in getting myself into. So moving on, I didn't think I needed to get divorced at that time. Since we were not in contact, we also felt like we were already divorced. I completely forgot about the divorce papers and he didn't react it. I didn't hesitate to cheat because I didn't see it as cheating as long as we weren't together anymore. I also imagined that he had someone that he was also with, so I didn't think that I was cheating or doing anything wrong. My affair partner and I didn't have any serious relationship and we broke up sometime after. I stayed single for a while before I got into another relationship. After 1 year, some of Gregory's friends came to my shop and started asking me a lot of questions. They kept asking me why I left the house just like that. It was obvious that they just came on their own because none of them mentioned anything about Gregory asking of me. I didn't ask about it too because I was not ready for that conversation. Gregory's friends and I had a cordial relationship, so it wasn't surprising that they came to ask me to go back to my husband. It was more of a warning rather than an advice, to be honest. They just told me that I must stop being childish and go back before it's too late. All their warnings fell on deaf ears because when I asked them if Gregory had a job yet, they said no. After they left, I made up my mind that my marriage was over, and I had nothing to do with Gregory any longer. I thought it would be a waste of time to wait for someone who had made up his mind not to look for a job to get a job. I wanted more in my life, and Gregory didn't seem to give me what I wanted, so I decided to stay away from him just for my own peace of mind. I resumed my relationship with my affiant partner who had some money and was also working. I didn't move in with him because I didn't want to be exclusive so soon. I had just gotten out of being tied to someone for 2 years, so I didn't want to rush back into the same situation almost immediately. My affair partner earned enough to take me out on the dates I craved, but to be honest, he wasn't exactly as financially stable as Gregory was when he was working. But I made do with what I had and focused on my business. I felt like it was important to be one self-made after all the drama my marriage had shown me. I wanted to expand my business by all means, so I tried to make that happen as fast as possible. But guys, this decision of mine ended up biting me. I'm back because I eventually realized that I made a huge mistake. It's been 2 years of being separated, right? But something crazy has happened right now that's making me rethink all the decisions I made. Can you guys believe that the husband I left with his business goals is now a big businessman? Yes, guy. I just got news 1 week ago that Gregory is now a very successful person. He pitched a business idea or whatever to a big company and launched something with them. I don't know a lot about how it happened, but I know that whatever he had been working on is now extremely successful. Yes, he's actually now a successful man. That means that all those days he stayed at the computer and looked at several piles paid off. He didn't lie about his dreams and his desire to have his own business foundation worked. The fact that he got a big payout and still had shares in a company is wild. I couldn't believe the news when I heard it, guy. It's actually true. Everything feels surreal, but most importantly, I feel like trash. I cannot believe that I left before he made it big. If I was still with him, I would have been the first to find out about this. But right now, I'm literally the last to know about this new advancement of his. And the fact that I was once the first person to know about what happens in his life and now I became the last is heart-wrenching. Do you actually know what's worse? It's the fact that he has a girlfriend now. Yes, Gregory had a girlfriend. I heard that he goes everywhere with her and she is living with him now. Can you believe that? He's still married to me, yet the moment he made it big, he got a girlfriend that had the audacity to live in our matrimonial home. What hurts more is that he never even bothered to tell me he now has money. He hasn't called me since 1 month after I left and he doesn't even care. I can't digest the fact that another woman is enjoying his wealth and success right now. We're still married, so I still have some right over him. I don't think it's completely unreasonable for me to wait for him to come back. Yes, guy, I want him back and I don't know how to go about it. I really need help and anything you do all day will be of help to me. You might ask why I didn't just try to talk to him, right? Well, I actually did try to talk to him, but none of that yielded any good thing. In fact, I ended up embarrassing myself as a result of that. Immediately I heard the news 1 week ago, I decided to go speak to him. I got dressed for the Navy Day and went to his house. Well, it's still my house since we're still married, I guess. Newsflash, he had hired a gatekeeper. We had to fire the last gatekeeper when Gregory listed his job because it was difficult to cope with finances. I thought seeing your ex-husband glow up after you left him only happened in movies until I saw the new car that was parked in Gregory's garage. Well, that cane was a big surprise to me. Even before I left the house, I knew it was one of Gregory's biggest possessions because he bought it while he was still working. He got the house even before we got married. I know that house costs a fortune, so it's something I'm proud of, and I want that house if we eventually get divorced just in case. So like I was saying, I got to the house and knocked on the door. Thankfully, I didn't have those encounters in soap operas where the girlfriend opens the door for the wife. Gregory was the one at home, and he was the one that opened the door after I knocked. He looked very different from the last time I saw him. I'd seen him once or twice since our separation whenever I came to the area, but it had been months since I saw him up close. He was growing a clean beard like all those businessmen. To be honest, Gregory didn't look like he was happy to see me at all. He looked like he hated the sight of me. I got everything but a cold welcome from him. I expected him to close the door immediately, but the first thing he said was, "Get the hell out of my face." Oh my God, I was actually very embarrassed, and I still get chills anytime I remember what happened. The fact that I was no longer welcomed in my own house did not sit well with me at all. I refused to go, and I tried to make him understand that I was there for a good reason, but all my efforts were in vain, and he refused to listen to me. He asked me to get out, or else he was going to make sure I embarrassed myself. I asked him if he had forgotten that we were married, and that statement almost landed a hot slap on my face. He almost slapped me, but he held his hand up and squeezed them together. He was on the ground and told me I was as good as dead to him. I told him I was still his wife, and then he told me the divorce papers will soon be sent to me and all he needed was my address. He said he had been waiting 2 years for me to come back so I could get the divorce papers. I couldn't even believe my ears. The fact that he wanted to divorce me after getting successful just screamed selfish. I told him I didn't want a divorce, and he confidently told me that only time would tell. He actually told me not to count my eggs before they hatch. I couldn't even believe that Gregory and I had grown so much apart that he spoke to me with so much bitterness and rudeness. It was beyond heartbreaking, to say the least. I started crying because I couldn't hold it in, but instead of consoling me, he closed the door in my face and locked it from the inside as if he was hiding from a petty thief at his doorstep. I left there with no self-esteem left. Since I came back from that place after getting embarrassed, it's been very hard for me to adapt to everything. I just keep thinking about how he embarrassed me and how obvious it was that he wanted absolutely nothing to do with me. It's not a matter of me being selfish or whatever. I just feel like as his wife, there's a level of respect that I actually deserve from him, but it's become quite clear that he's not ready to show me that respect anytime soon. I'm not okay with him planning to divorce me at all. Is Gregory insane or what? Why does he think he can just divorce me whenever he wants and I'll be okay with it? After wasting 3 years of my life, he thinks that he can just divorce me now that he has made it big. Please, guys, I really need your help because I just can't imagine why he would do this to me. I can't even sleep properly because I keep thinking about how bad the situation is. This man wants absolutely nothing to do with me. I cannot stomach that fact. He had a new car and a girlfriend, and he's living his life just like nothing happened or just like he had never had a wife before. Please help me with whatever advice I can get because it would really go a long way. Thank you all so much. Update. Oh wow, the amount of hats comments I have is wild. I had to double check if I was suddenly a celebrity overnight. I didn't even think that many people would pay attention to my life, but it seems like I thought wrong. Many of you even get the full story or what I've actually been through. I spent a lot of time trying to make you guys understand everything, but no one took time to get it. Instead of getting encouragement, I just got a lot of people that only cared to judge me the wrong way. Well, either way, life still went on and a lot has happened. I regret marrying the kind of husband I married. I regret it with every little finger in my heart because I cannot believe that Gregory was this cruel to me. I actually thought he would consider how I was with him when he was fired, but all that meant nothing to him. Gregory has ruined my life, and I regret marrying him with everything in me. He has divorced me, and he has left me with nothing. I know you might ask, how'd that even be possible? But trust me, it's more than possible, and he did it. Now you know I told you all of his embarrassing me when I went to the house, and how he told me he was going to divorce me, right? I called it nonsense and felt like he was just being dramatic. I mean, what did I get to do that he would want to divorce me when I was with him for all the 2 years he was broke? Right, it made no sense, so I refused to listen to him or take him seriously. That's until I got divorce papers delivered at my doorsteps barely 2 weeks after everything. I initially thought I was just seeing double and I was exaggerating, but guys, the divorce papers were real and they were for me. Of course, I just couldn't take the fall without a fight, no matter how little that fight is. That's why I went to go see him the next day, but I got another embarrassing shock. His girlfriend was at the house by the time I got there. If I just saw her there without any drama, it would have been bearable, but she was outside bringing big boxes in. Now I heard that she lived with him, but it wasn't something like a full move-in. That's why I had the hope that his relationship with her wasn't that serious yet. But no, she had been packing her things in. Yes, everything including her makeup and the biggest of boxes. Now we all know that if a girl brings all her makeup somewhere, she doesn't plan to leave. Now, I thought he had some respect left for her marriage, but I soon discovered that he actually had no respect for our marriage. Even though I dated other people, I never lived with them or let them move in with me. But he didn't do the same thing. He sent me divorce orders one minute, then he brought his girlfriend the next minute. Now that really got me very angry, and I won't even lie about it. Okay, keys say that part of everything is a little tolerable, and that's no reason to exaggerate. But I just couldn't get my mind off the fact that he actually let her move in fully. Do you know what that meant? He sent me divorce papers and then his girlfriend moved in the very next day? That meant that he was serious about her and she was serious about him. It automatically meant that the both of them planned on staying together long term. Okay, bad news, but it was more of a horrible news because he wanted to move in a girl into the house I wanted as part of my alimony if the divorce happened. Yes, I had planned out what I wanted for my alimony if we got divorced, which we did. Now, how did I end up with nothing? Well, Gregory is a freaking fool, first of all, and I hope karma meets him and hits him harder than life. I don't mean to bring in that much negativity, but I just can't resist it. I'm just really angry about a lot of things, and writing this is making me relive everything all over again. Now, that's not the best situation for one to find themselves, so don't get shirty with me. So when I saw the girlfriend, who is the intruder in the story, I ignored her and tried to walk into the house. I guess she already knew who I was because she didn't even bother stopping me from getting in the house. I expected some sort of confrontation, but there was none at all, and that made me hate her immediately. It was obvious that she was trying to act like a jive girlfriend when she was literally just like anyone else. She hated me whether she showed it or not, and I knew it. The feeling was mutual anyway, so I didn't care to speak to her or confront her too. Instead, I diverted most of my attention to the so-called husband who is now my ex-husband. Can you believe that I found Gregory in our matrimonial room making space for his girlfriend? When I packed, I left some of the shoes I couldn't take with me, and even some of my personal items. I thought I would be back after 2 months initially, but when things didn't work out like that, I couldn't go back and take them, so I just decided to forget about them. Now that brings me to the part where I noticed that Gregory didn't even keep any of the stuff I left behind. I actually thought I would come back and still see those things, but I met one of them at all. Another shocking thing was the fact that he sent me out of the bedroom immediately when he noticed that I had come to the bedroom. He sent me out like I was just nobody who had no right to the bedroom. It felt weird because I once lived there, right? I felt I had some sort of right there, but there was none. Now, to make matters completely worse, his girlfriend finally came to the bedroom, ignored me, then sat on the bed and acted like she didn't notice my presence at all. Of course, it was a very difficult situation to behold, and I couldn't even believe it. Gregory also refused to even tell her to acknowledge my presence. Instead, he embarrassed me and sent me away like I was just a common tout. I got really angry and got straight to business. I told him I didn't like the fact that he sent me divorce orders just out of nowhere. I didn't like it at all, but he refused to listen. I asked him if he at least got the alimony ready, and he laughed in my face and told me I was leaving the marriage with nothing. I couldn't even believe my ears at that point, and I told him we would meet in court. The fact that he even had the audacity to say all those hurtful things to me in front of his girlfriend was what made me understand that the marriage was over, and he had no respect for me. So I decided to forget about the marriage and focus on getting the house. I knew the house was worth a lot of money, and so I thought it would be the best option for me to just get the house even if I was going to walk out of the marriage. I hired a lawyer and got everything ready because I was literally ready for war, and I wanted to fight as much as I could. But I got the shock of my life when I was later asked to be the one to pay Gregory's spousal support. That sounds weird, right? But trust me, that's exactly the situation I found myself in. I couldn't even believe it. Do you know that Gregory and his lawyer convinced the court that at the time of our separation, he was the spouse with no source of income, and I was the working spouse with income? He had his sack later and his finances to back this up. When my lawyer tried to argue that Gregory was already rich enough to actually give me spousal support, his bank statements showed that he still wasn't working and had no money. Gregory refused to collect his payout from the company just because he knew I would come for alimony. He hasn't been paid fully yet, so technically he's seen as unemployed. He doesn't work yet and is just a shareholder. He convinced the court that his girlfriend was the one finding his car and expenses. The both of them had planned everything out. He was so smart that he knew I would surely ask for something. He also sold the house and had documents to prove that he sold the house after I left him, so he could use the money to fund his business ideas that ended up not yielding results. He also has the papers I had sent and showed he signed them, but I never showed up. Yes, there was really evidence that he sold the house, but to who? His friend. The court has no business with that, but from the band I'm the document. I knew he sold the house to his friend. Of course, that was just his way of getting back at me. After the divorce, I know he'll get his ownership back. It was just a well-planned stunt. It finally made sense why his friends tried to warn me a year ago. They knew he was planning to leave me broke. Maybe he had started earning by then, so they wanted to warn me, but I didn't listen. My lawyer was able to help me out and prove I was struggling, so I just ended up giving him $2,000. Since I left him for 2 years, I was made to look bad, and there were medical reports of him being admitted to the hospital after I left, and I had to pay damages because he made it look like I stole from him and made him broke. Yes, Gregory did all these to me. I hate him with everything in me, and I know he'll regret it one day.